How difficult is it having retention in kind of college athletics nowadays when there's things called NIL, transfer portal? I'm sure you probably get asked about all that kind of stuff all the time. Like, is it pretty difficult to kind of deal with that, or because of just kind of the culture that you guys have set, is it make it a little bit easier kind of realizing that, hey, I bring in the guys, like more the person than the player that kind of fit what we want to do at SVSU?
Yeah, I mean, we have the same challenges that everybody has, and so it's very difficult. And we've had guys, come, and guys that have left and went on to Power Five schools and that are doing really well at those places, and so we just really have always, valued relationships and developing great relationships with our players, and so, I still talk to, a couple of the guys that left in December that are at Division I schools now, and we still check in, and a couple of them stopped by to see me, after spring ball was over, and I love that, and I'm wishing them all the best and happy for them, and so, some of it's life-changing money. Life-changing money. There's one young man, I was like, yeah, you should do that. Like,
Yeah.
that's going to change your whole life, dude. And happy for him, and so, but, it feels good when the guys see what we're doing here and they see guys like, Trevor Nowaski and Nick Whiteside, on TV last night, two Cardinals standing, on the field, next to each other on the sideline, next to each other, like, we've had a good string of NFL guys over the last 4 or 5 years here, and we got some guys still hanging on, still doing it and doing a great job. I think Trevor had 5 tackles last night, and started the game and started on special teams. Even if it's just preseason, like he played a lot of snaps. That's great, and so we just tell the guys you can get there from here, and we're playing at a really high level. This is the best Division II football conference in the country. And there's a lot of great teams in our conference, a lot of great coaches, and a lot of great players. And so, it's exciting, but yeah, the portal, the NIL, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's really difficult when you pour so much into a young man and you love him like he's your own, and then, then it's time to say goodbye, and so that's hard, And it's hard on the student athletes too. Like, I can see it, they got to come in and have that hard conversation, and and it's just so we've really just tried to be transparent with our guys and said, hey, let's talk through it, and we'll help you make a great decision, and we ultimately just want what's best for them, and so we just kind of help them through the pros and the cons and try to give them as much advice and get them to talk to as many adults and professionals within the business as possible, and try to get them as much information as possible to make a good decision for their future. It's almost the same thing when you're recruiting high school kids. Like, we really just want to sell ourselves and say, this is who we are, this is how we do it, this is what you're going to get at SVSU, and we hope that they just want to say yes. I'm not in the business of twisting kids' arms and trying to manipulate them to come play for me. That's just not how we do it here. And I think that's been a big part of why our retention is so good, because it is what we say it is. And I just had a young man tell me that today. He said, man, Coach, this is exactly what you said it was going to be. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And he goes, no, I love it. I love it. He's like, the first time around you told me that, and then he went to Michigan and won a national title with Harbaugh and those guys, and now he's here for his last year, and he's like, man, it was the same at the first time, and it is the same now. And he's like, man, I'm just so excited. I've never been this excited for a season. So, that's really cool.
Yeah, and you have to take a little bit of a sense of pride, kind of obviously saying what you mean, and that's exactly what they kind of get back to you and saying, hey, this is exactly what you said. But then at the other end, like, you have guys that have transferred out that have had success, or you have guys that have been to the NFL. There's probably a little bit of a excitement about that, saying like, hey, like, we've developed these guys and they go on and do great things, but then at the same time you also still have to do with the stuff on the field as well. How do you kind of do it? How do you balance having to deal with kind of that stuff on the side, but also having to focus on football? Because that's not the way it was in college athletics. It was more of just like, hey, like, obviously relationships are important, but it's about the success on the field. And while that is there right now, you have to add the other opponents to it as well as the head coach.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. I always wish there was more time to do football, and I know that's how my staff feels all the time. And so, obviously, when you're at a Division II school, we all wear a lot of hats here, and so everyone's got to just roll up their sleeves, and we've just got to find a way to get what needs to be done, and we need to get it done fast, and need to get it done together, and it's always something else. So, and today's been one of those days too, where it's like, oh, it's 4th and 1 again. Here we go. We got to figure this out, and so it's a lot of problem solving. But yeah, when you're talking about trying to build a roster, that can be challenging because you don't really know what you're going to have. And so, and that's the part I think that frustrates college coaches, like me in particular. I want to build a program, and you'll hear a lot of people say, man, you can't build a program anymore. You're building a team for 2025, I just refuse to accept that and look at it that way. But you're, to a certain degree, it's true. You don't know in December after our season concludes here in 2025, what's going to happen with your roster. And so that makes it challenging. Then you're trying to, figure out what's the direction you want to go. Or do we got high school guys that are ready to go that we've developed, or do we need to get into the portal and try to fill some of our needs? And then spring ball comes and goes, and then the same thing happens again, and so, and with Division II, there is no portal dead period. It's just open all the time for us, and so that's really frustrating for a lot of Division II coaches. We want to be like the Division I schools and have a window, instead D2 kids can just be poached all the time, and there are plenty of coaches reaching out to D2 guys all the time on the regular trying to fill needs, which is just disappointing that it's come to this. But hopefully some things will come together here soon, and we can get some guardrails on this thing.